Mike, it's a pleasure having you here in the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this. How are you doing today?
Not bad. I've been inside all day, so I don't know what it's like outside. It's pleasant in my studio all day, so this has been my workshop since about 10 this morning.
It's pretty neat to see it from this angle because anyone who follows you from social media has a completely different experience of how your room looks like.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a peek behind the curtain. I've got a black Muslim on the wall, and I've got sound panels over there. So I can really darken it, pull the blacks down. It looks like I'm in outer space, but it's just
right. And then you put the layering in. What do you do? Final Cut or Adobe or Premiere?
Yeah, Final Cut.
Sweet. So before, there's a question where I'm starting recently, kind of cliche, but also brings perspective of everybody's career.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing before the whole thing started? What projects were you looking up to? And all of a sudden, it was gone.
COVID.
All right.
Is that what you're talking about before COVID?
Before COVID.
Man, this was going to be the year of me doing a lot of traveling and workshops and clinics and master classes, and so that is 100% gone, and I don't know if it's coming back. I've got one thing. I was supposed to do the Music City Drum Show in August. They pushed that to next year, so I'm still on that. But other than that, everything is officially done. So that kind of crushed the whole year.
I bet. I mean, even Basic. I was looking forward to go to Basic for the first time this year.
Oh, really? Yeah, because this will be...
It's going to be virtual.
I haven't missed one in 16 years. This will be the first time. It'll be weird.
I was so looking forward. I even got a grant, the whole thing.
Really?
And, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, can't change it, right? Just have to adapt.
Yeah. So let me tell you this. There are many, but here are my main two things that I'm very grateful of you. Number one, No Feels Friday. That was a blast.
I need to kick that back in. I got frustrated because I couldn't get a lot of people to participate. I'm like, come on, all I have to do is play a beat for 30 seconds.
I did a few, maybe 10 or 12 of those. And it kind of helps you to get out of that creative hole that sometimes you might get stuck.
Yeah.
Just play a beat. Because you see a lot of chopping and Instagram.
It was to be the, I've always kind of been against the grain mentality. What everyone else is doing, I want to do the opposite. So when Instagram became a chops fest, I'm like, well, I'm going to just play a beat, and then I'm going to play quiet. Like, whatever is not what everyone's doing. Plus, it's so much harder than if you never try to play a beat without changing one thing of it for a minute. Mm-hmm. It's way harder. I used to do groove meditations for YouTube, which was 5+ minutes of a beat that doesn't change.
Right.
And that was a challenge of can I stay completely focused in the moment, completely dedicated to every note I'm playing for 5 minutes straight. And without fail, 2 minutes in, my mind would wander for a split second. So it was a challenge. I've had a lot of my students do that too. And it's really difficult to maintain that intensity, and you can hear it. I got to the point where I could hear it, and that's what was frustrating. I could hear my mental breaks.
Right, and that takes me to, this is a great segue on how obsessed you're with time.
Yeah, it's been my Achilles heel my entire career, and I never addressed it. So then finally, I don't know, because there was a few instances when I was a kid, like I had a band director throw a metronome at me in the middle of rehearsal. We're playing with a big band. It was like an all-state big band. It was a pretty high-pressure thing. And he threw a metronome at me. He's like, turn that on and have it click on 2 and 4. I'm like, dude, I don't know you. I don't know anyone in this band, and I'm playing charts I've never read before. You want me to turn the metronome on and have it click on 2 and 4? I couldn't do it. It was so embarrassing. I don't think any 17-year-old could do it, but the point was well taken. Your time sucks.
Yeah.
But I just ignored it forever and just focused on developing everything else until finally whenever that was, when I interviewed Steve Jordan, and I got to sit in the room with him while he played drums for 2 hours while he was getting his picture taken. I'm like, all right, I've got to figure this thing out, because every note he plays is just perfect. Like,
yeah, I mean,
chops is him. Like, physically, I know my hands and feet can do what he can do. Why does it sound so good when he plays this kit, and it sounds so bad when I play this kit? Because I was it was a cover story for Modern Drummer, so I was there to direct it. Steve showed up like an hour after the photographer, so we got all the lights checked. I was Steve Jordan while we were checking lights and everything. And his kit was there, and I played it. Nothing special. It was just a kit. Snare drum was tuned higher than I've ever heard any snare drum tuned. Bass drum was just a bass drum. And I couldn't make that thing feel right. And as soon as he sat down, it was like, well, there's the sound. What is he doing? Instantly.
Steve Jordan is something else. Fun fact, I share Steve Jordan's birthday, January 14th. Steve Jordan and Dave Grohl.
Are you a Capricorn?
Yeah.
I'm 26th. I'm Aquarius.
Okay. It means nothing to me, but it's like, on a side note, I'm from Puerto Rico. So Walter Mercado was a big thing, and now there's a Walter Mercado documentary on Netflix. So now in my social media feed between my friends and family in Puerto Rico is all Walter Mercado stuff, going back to Capricorn and Aquarius and all that. So little side note. Anyhow, so but going back to talk about time, it's so difficult for drummers, including myself. I struggle with it all the time. Because there's so many things that you want to work. You want to work on independence. You want to work on rudiments. You want to work on dynamics. Like dynamics was a big one to me when I was in music school and grad school. And then thinking back and say, oh shit, I have to work on my time.
Well, yeah, I can't really. It's like a chicken or the egg kind of a paradox. I spent 20, probably almost 30 years chasing skills, like getting faster and more independent and better touch and a better sound, and knowing all the vocabulary, transcribing, just circling the wagon, kept circling and always never happy with the way I sounded. I know everything. I know how everyone plays. I know how to do all this stuff. My body can do it all. I couldn't play quarter notes in time. And I wasn't willing to accept that was my problem. I could not play confidently at 60 BPM just quarter notes. And once I finally admitted that's my problem, I just threw away all my chops, opened up Alfred Drum Method, Book 1, metronome to play 16th notes, super slow. Started on exercise 1, worked my whole way through. Anytime I heard any variance in timing, I stopped and started over. It was ear training. My ears weren't trained to hear it.
Great, and that's another point that as drummers, I think we lack in our training, and is that ear training. Because for a sax player or a string player, it's very easy for them to say, that's notice out of pitch, or like they can pinpoint easier those flaws or small variants. While for us, for drummers, our brain is so entangled in many, many things that...
Yeah, and the other thing is we have this implement that separates us from our instrument.
Right.
We don't actually touch our instrument. So we have this thing that's a barrier between the instrument. The brain is up here, and we're producing sound down here. To
a surface that is down there.
Yeah, to a surface is way down here. You don't have to use this at all. You can just play.
Right.
And that's what happens. We learn how to play, and we're not engaging this. And that's the problem. That's the disconnect. Once you realize it all starts here and here, if you can hear the rhythm, you can feel the rhythm, your hands are going to produce the rhythm. If you start with just trying to produce the rhythm and trying to figure it out backwards, you're chasing your tail. And I got to thank Steve Jordan again, because I asked him, I mean, I say this all the time, but I asked him a simple question: how do you know if something is grooving or not? I'm like, I want to know. Like, I'm on this quest to figure it out. And his answer was, if you have to ask the question, you're probably not grooving. So at any point if you're playing, you're like, I don't even know if this feels good or not. It probably doesn't, because if it did, you'd know it.
Right.
And how do you know it? It means you own it. It means you're committed. It means you're focused on that, making something feel good. How do you define feel good? Well, that's, for me, it's, I know that what I'm hearing in my head and feeling in my body is being produced with my hands, with no latency, no drag, no distortion. It's just a straight flow of here, out the hands.
Okay, the interview is over. I'm gonna go and practice.
But you know what? It takes so long, and I've worked with a lot of students recently that I want to share, all the struggles that I've had with it. And inevitably, the first couple lessons, it's like, I don't get it. I don't know what you're saying. I'm like, trust me. If you do one thing, turn your metronome so it clicks on the offbeats and just play grooves. You're going to know right away if you have command of the quarter note or not, because the offbeat isn't giving you the quarter note. It's just filling in the gaps.
Right.
So do all of your stuff with that offbeat and see how in control of it you are. And the other thing to do, count out loud the quarter note while you're playing all your stuff. There's going to be stuff you think you know how to play that your vocal is going to get disrupted.
Right. And it seems childish.
How to do it.
It seems childish, but it's a challenge. It's a way to be accountable of the time.
Yeah, we have to own it. You have to own everything you play. And back to your reference with horn players and singers, they can't just go by muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
You can't blow through an instrument and produce a good sound if you're just using muscle memory. You've got to hear the note. You've got to visualize the note, produce the sound, produce the tone. You're so engaged where we don't have to do that at all. Whatever you tune the drum is what it sounds like, to a degree. Still, a lot of it's in your hands, but...
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mind blown. That's it. Oh, yeah. Dang.
It's exciting because I feel like I was one of those people in college. I kind of suffered from a lot of insecurity of like, I'll never be great. I'll never really figure this out. Some people have a gift, some people don't. I'll forever be that, able to play gigs, but not really anything special kind of musician, just because I knew that what I heard from myself coming back at me wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't know how to fix it. So I just gave up. I was like, I'll never really have that thing. But then it was after talking to Steve Jordan, like, you know what? I can figure this out. He gave me the clue. How do I get rid of the self-doubt? What do I have to do?
And honestly, like, to me, those are the best drum lessons ever. Like, you get to sit down with someone whose wisdom is out of display. Yeah. Like, you don't have to sit in the drum set to get that. Like I feel fortunate doing this, that I get to have conversations with you, and so many others. Like, I had a conversation with Horacio El Negro not long ago, and
he's a genius.
My mistake was doing that interview late at night. Because it was very hard to go to sleep. It was very, very hard.
Yeah. No, he was one of those. There's a few people in my life that, like, when I saw them and heard them do what they're doing, it was like, okay, that we've gone to another level. Like, everyone level up. You've got something to catch up to. And there he is.
It is killer. So, speaking of MD.
Yeah.
I read or I saw or somehow it popped up to my radar that there's going to be a Spanish edition of MD.
Yeah, I believe it is in the works. I have not seen any proofs of it yet, but our COO he speaks Spanish, and our CFO is Colombian.
Sweet. So to the audience of Drums en Español, stay in the look for MD in Spanish or
hopefully
some sort of name like that.
Yeah. I don't know what it'll be yet. Hopefully sooner than later.
So it will be like a translation of the MD content, or will be like original content toward Spanish speakers?
You know, I can't really speak to it because I'm not sure. I'm assuming it'll be translations to the start because I haven't been to do any copy editing on original text in Spanish. So we don't have any Spanish-speaking editors at the moment. So I think it'll be all translations and probably digital only. I don't know if it'll be print, but again, I'm kind of speaking out of turn. I'm not sure yet. As soon as I know, I'll let you know.
Sweet. All right. So you interview Steve Jordan.
Yeah.
Who else blow your mind?
All of them in different ways. Steve was just like an all-time hero. So getting to sit with him for 2 hours and then walk down Broadway with him while he goes, to walk with him home was just kind of special. And he just blew my mind. Matt Chamberlain, I've interviewed a bunch of times, and every time it's full of magic. Glenn Cochi I've interviewed a few times, and every time he just gets me inspired to want to compose music for drums and percussion. He's just such a thinker of the instrument that it's inspiring. Early on I interviewed Zach Hill. You're familiar with him?
Yeah.
He's a Sacramento experimental rock drummer. He kind of takes it like an extreme monk kind of approach to drumming, where he's trying to play as fast and loud for as long as is physically possible all the time. He's he's
a CrossFit for drummer.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a spiritual journey. Like he's trying to like create out of body experiences by forcing himself physically to go above and beyond. Like I think he broke his foot playing the bass drum.
He didn't bust a pedal. He didn't crack a head. He broke a foot.
Yeah,
that's another level.
Yeah, he wanted to be able to play double bass with one foot. Like for real. He's insane. I haven't seen him in a long time, but that was early on, and we're the same age, so we have a lot of the same history. But I mean, just he's taken it so extreme, and I have 5 hours of tape of him just going off. So that was one of the first interviews with someone okay, this is what it means to be a full-time professional.
That's sick.
So every single one. Benny Greb was great. Annika Nillis was cool. Shannon Forrest blew my mind. Near Z. I mean, luckily I've been able to choose who I interview that I'm most curious about. So Shannon Forrest, Near Z are studio drummer icons for me. So I want to just absorb everything about what it takes to be a modern studio drummer from those guys. Matt Chamberlain, all-time hero. He's played with all my favorite bands, back to Pearl Jam, Edie Brickell, Wallflowers,
Fiona Apple,
Garden, go down Tori Amos. He's on the new Bob Dylan album. I mean, his track record is so cool and so inspiring. And every time I talk to him, it's obvious why. He's just creative, cool. He's just got the whole complete package.
I mean, didn't he sign recently with Gretsch? I mean, recently, a few years ago, 2-3 years ago.
He's playing Yamaha again.
But he changed all the time, Dios mío.
Yeah, I mean, he was with Yamaha in the 80s. And I guess he went full circle. Yamaha and I believe Pisces again.
Right, the Pisces part, I'm aware.
Yeah, he said it's just music. I want to play things that inspire me. So why not? Why not change it up?
Whatever. That's sick. So now speaking of studio work.
Yeah.
Can you give us a rundown how your workflow looks like when you're doing a session?
Yeah. Everything is done here these days. I've left my studio 3 times in the past 5 years to go somewhere else, maybe 4 times. So, and everyone that I'm working with now has their own studios. So they're sending me, it used to just be tape recorder, acoustic guitar, singing in the bathroom kind of demos. I did a couple of those, and those were tough. Lately, it's been full production or darn near full production demos, where it's here's the tune with guitar, vocal, bass, maybe a guide drum track. Just do your thing to it. So then I just pull the track into Logic, and as I'm listening to the reference, I start imagining what kind of kit I'm going to put up, and I grab gear from the assorted things I have, and
from that black hole over there.
I always start with bass drum and snare drum, and then because toms I can kind of fill it in with whatever, unless it's something very specific. So it's bass drum, like, do I want a small sound, do I want a big sound, do I want an open sound, do I want a tight sound? Snare drum, do I want something bright, something dark, something short, something fat? Zero that in, and then I just start messing with the tune. I mean, this thing is mic'd up all the time. I've got 16 channels of microphones that I can mix and match for anything. So I literally just plug and play at just a few levels, depending on how hard I'm hitting, but that's about it. So I just start wailing.
And just to clarify to the audience, if you're having trouble with those terms like fat, bright, big, small, there's a few episodes of Modern Drummer Podcast, which I'm going to link below, that go over those terms. And even there's some audio examples, I think, that will give you an idea what the terms are, because they could be confusing at a point.
Yeah, it's mostly tempo and mood. If something's slow, I need drums that take up more space. If something's fast, I need something that takes up less space. If the mix is wide open, so the drums can be more a character, then I'll go with something that has more resonance. If it's going to be a real dense mix, then the bass drum just has to hit and get out of the way. The snare drum has to be focused and punchy. So I'm kind of factoring in all tempo, mood, and key signature, and then what kind of production is it? That's usually the last thing. Because some drums take up a real tight and they take up a real little bit of space, so then all the other instruments can do what they need. I have other drums that can take up the whole mix, if that's the vibe. I have a concert bass drum. Hit that thing once, and there's a whole measure of sound.
So do you get keys from, like, points from the producer, like, I want this kind of vibe, or they give you free range for the most part?
It's both. I mean, some of the artists and producers I've been working with for years, I just know what they like, and I just don't try to push them to do anything outside their, what they like. So I kind of start there, or I've got a batch of things to do this weekend. It's the composer said he wants it to sound like indie folk, kind of Lumineers vibe. Like, Don't make it, I don't want it to sound like a drum set, and everything's got to build. So I'm going to be layering in bass drums and toms and shakers and tambourines and piecing it together. Even though he's only given me a demo with an acoustic guitar, he said it's going to be layered. So stagger your stuff. Start sparse, and by the end of it, he said everything should have a hairpin.
Right.
So that gives me enough direction. So I'll just over-deliver. I'll give him probably way too many things, and then he can piece it together from there. So yeah, it's always that first conversation is usually, give me a reference of an album that you want it to sound like, and we'll start there. That's usually the best way. When he said Lumineers, I knew right away, okay, it's going to be room mics, it's going to be old drums, it's going to be toms, probably no cymbals. As soon as he said that, lots of tambourine.
Yeah, it's great when you have that relationship with the producer. I've done a few remote sessions, and I remember the first time I did it, I had to do so many revisions, like 3 or 4. It's like, so be clear. Tell me what you want.
Yeah, I learned the hard way with that. I had that mistake, not putting an end point. Like certain little tricks of I'll send the first run through and I'll keep the click on it so they know it's not a real version. Right. It's like, these are the sounds and the rough idea. I'll give them like a verse and a chorus. Are these parts cool? If they say go ahead, then there's no change in it from there. Then now I'm going to give you your final tracks, and I always label them final take 1, final take 2, final take 3. So then we're done. Just like little tricks. And I've had that problem where this one songwriter just didn't know what he wanted, and he couldn't really tell me. So I ended up having to leave my kit set up for like a week for like one song. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
and that kills your workflow, especially with the product reviews that you do for MD.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't have time, and there's another band that I just did a whole EP in one day, 1.5 days, and he kept saying, well, I want to add these other tunes. Like, no, man, like, this is the session. Like, I will give you these 6 tunes. I got to move on. Like, I can't just because you're inspired, it doesn't mean I have to sit and keep my kids.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. I mean, time is money, and especially now that people are working from home or there's lack of work for so many musicians out there.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's become. Is everyone is home and trying to do something with their time, and then forgetting that everyone has their own lives. So it's like, man, I really want to crank out a bunch of tunes. Like, cool. Well, I need to do them all at once. It can't be like a 3-month project because your sound is not going to work for this Lumineers thing I've got to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the hard part, the politics of it. Because most of the people I'm working with are friends. Like, I very rarely do I get just random stuff. It's bandmates, former bandmates, or songwriters, or producers, or different companies that I've worked with forever. So there's that personal relationship. At some point, you have to kind of, okay, we're friends, but this is work.
Totally. It's like with rehearsals. When they used to be rehearsals, it's like, yeah, we had to do 6 rehearsals for a 45-minute set that we're gonna play a drum or a shapeshifter. It's like, no. Let's be clear. No, I'll do 1, 2 at most. Send me the charge, send me the tracks. I'll work with it, and I will come prepared.
Yeah, that's a fine line. That, for me, that's the hobbyist versus professional thing. Like, if you're doing it for fun, you just want to get together and play with friends, 100%. But keep in mind that I do this professionally, so you can do that. And I've had to tell certain bands, like, you need to find someone else because this is not. I can't do this. I can't rehearse weekly. I can't play shows for like little to no money once a month and then not take real gigs that might show up. So I totally get it. And I have to always kind of, tread lightly. Like, I don't want to talk down to people, but at the same time, like, you're doing it for fun. This is your outlet. I need to do this for my career. So we need to respect both sides of this here. It's tough. Tough.
It is a weird. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Any weird gig that you remember?
Oh, man. I think I blocked out any of the super weird ones. Let me think of what would be the strangest. I mean, there was a band that I was in 10 years ago that was really trying to, like, quote-unquote, make it. So we got booked at some festival way upstate New York. So we made like a little tour. We did like Albany and kind of did a circle, Buffalo, played a bunch of cool shows, and it was supposed to be the peak with this festival, this rock festival, way up there. So we show up. And it was just a bunch of like high school bands, high school kids, and there was no PA. It was just bands sitting up in the lawn. For like 3 days, essentially. We drove around New York for 3 days thinking this festival is going to be something cool. And we get there and we're like playing in like the playground of a high school. That was pretty bad.
And it's let me guess, you were all huddled up on a U-Haul.
Not even. We were in a Subaru Forester with all of our gear. All of it. 4 people. A thing on top, Forester, all of our gear.
That's it.
I mean, it was fun. They were some of my best friends. We had a good time. And the shows leading up to it, we opened up for Spin Doctors, and it was a bunch of cool stuff. But for that, at the end of it, that was the last show. I was like, man, this is what makes you want to quit. There's been a lot of those, like, misleading experiences. You're like, oh, cool, we're going to do this big show, and nobody's there. No tickets were sold. And I toured around the country with an artist, and in the first 2 weeks, empty rooms. Like, 5 people. We played for the opening band a couple times.
That's
It's like the
brutal.
promoter just didn't bring anybody in. So that was disheartening. But but it's still, again, we had fun.
And it's no different than playing in a jazz room at this point.
Yeah. I want to get back to my jazz gigs. Good grief! I did one at a art gallery where it was like a open bar, open wine, and everyone was there just to drink the free wine. And there was a dude on a balcony above me, and he poured wine on me.
Oh, Dad. Oh, Dad.
I was like dressed in a suit, swinging, had my nice Premiere kit, and I felt, and it went all over my drums. I immediately stopped. I think I'm going to get in a fight in an art gallery.
And don't mess with my Janista.
No, those are my Signias.
I ain't seen that. Shit. No. Okay, that's another level. Sorry. I played this one gig last year, actually. It was Pride Day, and the gig was on Fifth Avenue. It was like a church service on a church on Fifth Avenue. That was a mess, just getting in and out.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Ooh.
I bet. Yeah, if I want to talk about, I did one in Times Square on not Christmas Eve, but maybe the day before, for a some big lawyer party. They had like 2 floors of a building in Times Square reserved for the party.
I hate Times Square.
We were doing, I didn't have to bring any gear, but we were doing all Christmas tunes. And we didn't rehearse, and I show up. Nobody could play. Like, the guy playing trumpet who was leading the group couldn't play trumpet. Like, I don't mean he played bad. Like, he was one of those, like, play the wrong note and look at the kind of. So we played, like, atonal Christmas music for, like, 2 hours. For, like, multi-millionaires. It was so bad. I just kind of sat like this. And I remember he asked me the next year, "You want to do it again?" I'm like, "No, thanks, man."
Yeah.
I mean, it was so sad. I mean, like, the key signatures weren't even right. Like, the charts were wrong. Everything was just whack. Hey, but the shrimp was good.
But drummers, learn the charts. So that's a good thing. Drummers, learn the charts, learn all the parts. So you know when someone is playing good or bad, and then you can make better decisions who you're playing with.
Yeah.
Because I seen it at all. Like, do you know that part? No. That's not my instrument. I don't have to learn that. It's like, the hell you do.
Yeah, at least know what time signature it's supposed to be.
Yeah. What was the story that Johnston made on the podcast one time? 1, 2, 3, and that, or something like that.
Like that. Yeah.
Like that.
Yep. We've all been there, done that. I guess if you do it long enough, you're going to have some of these disasters, but
Right.
then hopefully you get to a point where you can say no to those. And I finally at a point a few years ago where I just said, I'm not going to take any more of these strange things.
No. I mean, you as a musician, you don't grow. It's a hassle. You're gonna get all cranky, and whoever knows New York angry, it's a whole nother level of angry.
Yep.
No, it's not worth it. Speaking of Times Square, Carter, say hi.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, he's at the Ludwig channel right now.
So what?
He's at the Carter's at the Ludwig channel doing an interview right now, I think.
Well, this is not coming out today, so
whatever it was, he was.
But what it is to play that Lion King show? Going for Carter.
The most intense 3 hours you can ever imagine. From downbeat to the last note to getting on the bus to go home, it's just intensity. I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, the music is awesome. The book is super fun and challenging. There's always enough each night that kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat, even if you really know the book. But there's also a couple things that just physically and technically are very difficult, like very demanding. By the end of the bows, my forearms are pumped. Like, I'm sweating. Like, there's been some nights where I'm like, oh my God, my technique's going to fall apart at the bows. Like, I'm done. My body is like, you cannot do this anymore.
Wow.
So it's intense in that way, and just the mental intensity. I'm sure Carter would say a little bit differently because it's his book, but as a sub, the extra pressure of I have to play like Carter. I have to really keep on my toes for things that I didn't expect. Different conductors. There's still a couple conductors I've only worked with 2 or 3 times, and I forget some of the things they do differently. So yeah, the first show I did, I felt like I was in a fist fight. I felt like I was playing a video game, like an Assassin's Creed or something video game. I had tunnel vision. Like I could not see beyond the charts and the monitors. Like someone could have come in and breakdanced behind me.
Right.
I wouldn't have known because it was like tunnel vision. I was like in battle with Mufasa and the crew.
I mean, not only that, you don't get to change the kit. You don't get to move nothing from there.
I mean, I use his sticks. I don't change the throne. I don't change the hi-hat. I don't do anything. The only thing I do is I plug my in-ears in and put my music up. That's it. So even just that, like the orientation of the kit, he sits probably 3/4 of an inch lower than I do normally.
Okay.
Which isn't too bad, except for occasionally I'm like overreached and I hit a rim because it's like something's just not quite
right.
Like I'm having to hit a wood block over here.
And there's no way to practice that unless that you're in the room several times. Like, this is the layout. Physically, how am I going to make this happen?
Yeah, no. I mean, you sit and observe them a few times. You kind of get a feel for the atmosphere. But I didn't have an octopad, so I printed out a picture of an octopad. And that's how I practiced. Because there was one tune, they've since changed it, but there was one tune where you're playing like full-on drum parts on an octopad. Like there's some Latin stuff, samba stuff, where you're doing all kinds of crap on this octopad. So I had to print one out on like 11 by 17 paper. I just whacked the
paper. Hey, you make do with what you have.
Yeah.
Because you use the Alesis, the strike pad is what it's called?
Yeah, I got that. That's upstairs. I'm now practicing with that. I've got the Roland here that I use for some gigs. I've been buying up every electron. I've got the Nord drum there. I've got a mandala drum. I've been on a tear of buying. I've got an old Sin drum over there. Any electronics I can find because I find it so inspiring and bizarre. It instantly takes me into weirdo experimental mode. But I didn't have an octopad, which is laid out differently than the SPDS. The octopad, I think, is 2x4 instead of 3x3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never played one of those Rolands. I have the cat percussion somewhere behind there.
4-pad thing?
So what?
4 pads?
Yeah, the KTEM. The MP1.
Yep.
Just to dip my toes. It's my first experience with an electronic drum. I had an old Yamaha DTX when I first moved to New York, and I treated it as a drum set, and I didn't like it and sold it eventually. But now I'm using that not as a drum set, but as an electronic drum itself. And your channel and your YouTube feed and your Instagram feed is an inspiration to that because it forces you to use it as a different animal.
I think the industry has been going all about it completely wrong, trying to make electronic drums that look and sound and feel like real drums. And no matter what, you're going to frustrate everyone because they're never going to sound, look, and feel exactly like real drums. Where I get it, you want the same experience because you've learned physically how to do it. But I don't want to respond like a real drum. I don't want the hi-hat to have nuance. Then I'll just play a hi-hat. I want the hi-hat to go chick or ching or whatever I want. I want that mechanicalness, and I want that to force me to do something creatively that's not what I normally do. So that's, for me, the electronics it's uncharted territory. Like I don't play it like a drum set.
To me, I've been experimenting just doing like a different signal chain, putting phrasers and weird echoes or delays going on, just to create that different vibe. And
I practice with delay all the time instead of a metronome.
Huh.
It's super fun because you can hear if your subdivision is getting crappy, the delay will get wonky.
Right.
But if the delay is perfectly in time, you know you're in time. You can make the delay disappear if you're in time with it. Or you could play like a triplet against it, so now you've got this hemiola. So it's kind of a way to work on your time, but not with any kind of static device. You're working on your time based on the delay timing that you program. So if you do like an eighth note delay, you're the one still playing the time,
right.
and you're determining the space between the primary note and the delay. So you can make it shuffle if you speed up a little bit. Yeah, I do that all the time. It's super fun.
Dude, you have blown my mind, and I really appreciate the time that you have given us. There's so many questions that I left out of the table. So hopefully we can sit down another day. Hopefully in person, I'll buy you a beer or a coffee or tea. I don't know if you're still doing tea because of Johnston.
I don't like tea. I don't. It's coffee.
I tried it. Nah. I heard Johnston being so excited about tea. It's like, let's give it a nah.
No, I mean, I'll drink it, but it's not what I ever go to. It's water, coffee, wine, whiskey. That's kind of it.
Yep. Nothing else. Anyhow, here's my, just to close this. The podcast is on a hiatus. You're still posting like highlights, which is really cool. And it's a great starting point for anyone who had never heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
Is it coming back?
Not in that form. That
okay.
form is going to be no longer. Okay. We are shifting to an interview show, so it'll be more of a variety show. I'll be interviewing people. Other people on staff will be interviewing people. Some of our freelance writers will be interviewing people. I'm still going to have a product review section, but I'm going to hopefully be interviewing the makers of the products instead of just reading the website stuff. So if I'm doing a Zildjian symbol, I'm going to get Paul Francis to tell me about it. So we're just reformatting. Mike's going to hopefully pop in and out every once in a while. But the Mike and Mike show, we're capping it at 250. Okay. And that's going to just live on in perpetuity and be what it is. We have
and 250 is next week.
Yeah.
Because you put in 249 the other day. What, yeah. Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yep. There'll be one more. And we're going to leave it at that. Maybe bring it back in the future. We both agreed it was time to just do other stuff, reconvene. The COVID thing really kind of screwed up the momentum of everything.
Yeah. No, totally.
Super demanding, so it just became like, all right, the business side of all this needs to be restructured. Let's let you do your thing for a while. We'll come back and figure it out later. So it's not canceled. It's just we're stopping at 250. If we come back as Mike and Mike, it'll be something different and better in the future.
Dig it. I wish you could release some of those pre-conversations before the actual podcast. Because it feels cool. Like, what was the joke before that?
You know what? Mike and I started the podcast because we just were calling each other all the time to talk about drums and talk about the stupid things that drive us nuts as drummers and professionals and working in this industry, which can be really, really bizarro.
Right.
So inevitably, the first 5 to 10 minutes of us talking was like, all right, what pissed you off this week? Let's get it out. Come on. Who did you see do something stupid? Or it was just, what you would do if you show up at a bar and you grab a drink, and what's the first 5 or 10 minutes of your conversation? I'm pretty ticked off about this. Let's get it out of the way. And then, so then we always would end with a laugh and then start the show.
And sometimes those rants got into the show, which were my favorite part.
Yeah, we try to keep it real, but a lot of the beginning few minutes were personal. It was friend to friend stuff.
I mean, in the drum industry, it's very small. For a lot of people might think, drum industry is this huge thing, and it's really not. You have the same players just moving from one camp to another camp.
Yeah, it's super, super small. That's why it's super important to be as professional and kind and, honest honest as you can. Because you never know. You never know who you might meet that you think is a joke, and then one day they're running a company and you want to do something with them. And you're like, oh, I was really rude to that person 10 years ago, and I shouldn't have been.
No, I mean, and it's that, and it's also the business. You being part of MD, MD having this huge reputation as a trusted source of education, information, is there.
Yeah, I try to represent it. You know, I don't endorse anything, and I try to maintain that independence, even also with Modern Drummer. But at the same time, I represent the brand, hopefully, in a pure way. I don't know, because I don't ever try to sell it. Like, I'll be like, hey, you should buy an ad for your, for Modern Drummer. Like, that's not my gig.
Right.
But, I definitely hold it. And, I mean, I learned how to play from subscribing to Modern Drummer when I was 12 years old.
Right.
That's forever there. I learned about everybody from Dave Weckl to Joe Morello to some of my favorite drummers of all time via Modern Drummer, and I try to never forget that. Like, I was a kid who lived in a small town, no musicians around. I had Modern Drummer showing up, and that was really important. I don't think I would have been a professional musician without realizing, oh yeah, there's actually a community out there for all of us.
Definitely. I remember going for the first time to the Chicago drum show. I lived in Illinois for a few years, and it's like, because it's a total different vibe than now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like just drummers from all levels, like students, collectors, educators, and that's why I was so excited of going to Basic this year.
Yeah, you've never been. That's a bummer.
Basic, and they're gonna do it virtual, like a virtual sessions.
Yeah, I mean, cool. That's not the same.
Yeah, you can have a drink while that.
Yeah, I mean, that would, for me, the best part of PASIC is the clinics are cool, but it's the in-between. It's the after.
It's the hangouts.
Seeing Stanton Moore hanging out with Rich Redmond and Dom Famularo, and like, why are all these guys hanging out? And just being part of those conversations and getting to know everyone just on a more, like Glenn Cochi, last time he was there, he called me at like 11. He's like, dude, come up to my hotel. I've got some music for you to listen to. That didn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I was just hanging out and listening to some really weird percussion music late at night in Glenn Cochi's hotel. Wow. And I was about to go to bed. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll be up.
Sweet. I mean, but those are the kind of things that you don't say no.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I'm old and grouchy, but come on, man. And I see the dude like once a year, and he's inviting me up to listen to some like music that no one's ever heard before. I was like, yeah, all right, I'll see you in a minute.
Absolutely. Mike, it's been a pleasure doing this. Like I said, I would love to do this again because there's many, many more questions and many more routes that we could do. So thank you very much. I'm not going to ask you for a pick of the week, but
in what capacity? Product? What do you want me to?
Whatever is your pick of the week for this week.
All right, give me a second here.
Go for it.
I don't promote my buddy Nick enough because I'm a terrible salesman, but he dropped off some cymbals. I'm going to show you these.
Hit it.
Nicky Moon cymbals. He's in New Jersey. He hand makes this crap. Like, hand makes it. He gets blank cymbals from Turkey, and he smashes them with his hands, no machines, and those crazy. So these are Dirty Angel hi-hats. So they're B20 from Turkey that he hammers, lays, finishes, and then he customizes them depending on what he's hearing in the bronze that day. These, there was something going on in the bell, so he drilled holes in the bell, and it just opened them up in a certain way, and then the bottom, he put rivets in it.
Rivets.
These hi-hats are like exactly what I was hearing in my head. It's like he knew exactly what I wanted without even asking him. So check out Nicky Moon cymbals. Custom, one-man shop, Jersey Shore, doing it the hard way. He's smashing bronze with hammers. And his stuff.
I will put his link down in the description or his social. He's the one that make you that alien-alike symbol, right?
Yep, I got that over there.
That symbol is wicked.
I met him because he was making stainless steel rides, and I asked him, I was like, can I check out one of those? Because it looks like an old K, and it's made out of stainless steel. I'll show you that one. Get to it here. This was a flat sheet of stainless steel.
What?
I mean, it was just like a refrigerator, you know? He made the bell by hand. It looks like an old K.
What?
And it sounds like Bizarro.
Yeah, and I bet it's super light.
Yeah, it's flexible. It's just weird enough. But if you wouldn't know any better, you think this was an old K. That started with just a flat piece of steel. He lathed it. He said, lathing stainless steel is probably the most dangerous thing you can ever do.
It's so wobbly.
He's like, he said his blades were like melting because it has to be spinning so fast.
What?
That's our pick of the week. Check out Nicky Moon Cymbals. He does modifications. He's done a bunch of mods of heavy old Zildjians I had that now they're like my favorite gigging cymbals. So he'll mod stuff. He'll fix cracks, custom stuff. It's just cool to have that brotherhood. Like, I know he's an hour and a half away. He's as nuts about making cymbals as I am about playing that silly instrument back there.
That silly instrument. I think that's how I'm gonna call this episode. That silly instrument with Mike Dawson.
There you go.